Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktabinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. I looked at my little weather app, and it said it's 73 degrees, which I think is like perfect. Therefore, I don't think we need that. At least we can rearrange it so it doesn't blow on me if you want to have it blow on you. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 24th day of July, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 18, conclusion, the perfection of Renunciation, text 64, on page 703. No book? Okay. Sarva Guyatamam Bhuyaha Shrinume Paramam Vachaha Ishtosi Me Dridham Iti Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam Sarva Guyatamam Bhuyah Shrinume Paramam Vachaha Ishtosime Dridhamiti Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam Savaguyatamam Bhuya Shrinume Paramam Vachaha Ishtosime Dridhamiti Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam Savaguhyatamam Bhuya Shrinume Paramam Vachaha Ishtosime Dvidhamiti Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam. Ishtadeva. Sarvaguyatamam Bhuya Shrinume Paramam Vachaha Ishtosime Dvidhamiti Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam. Go ahead. Sarvaguyatamam Bhuya Shrinume Paramam Vachaha Ishtosime Dvinamiti Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam. You want to try it? Not yet. Okay. Word by word. Sarva Guyatamam, the most confidential of all. Bhuyaha, again. Shinu, just here. May, for me. Page 703. Paul. 703. Paramam, the supreme. Vachaha, instructions. Ishtaha, asi, you are dear. Me, to me. Dridham, very. Iti, thus. Tataha, therefore. Vakshyami, I am speaking. Te, for your hitam, benefit. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Purport. The Lord has given Arjuna knowledge that is confidential, knowledge of Brahman, and still more confidential, knowledge of the Supersoul within everyone's heart. And now he is giving the most confidential part of knowledge. Just surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the end of the 9th chapter, he has said, Manmana, just always think of me. The same instruction is repeated here to stress the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. The essence is not understood by a common man, but by one who is actually very dear to Krishna, a pure devotee of Krishna. This is the most important instruction in all Vedic literature. What Krishna is saying in this connection is the most essential part of knowledge, and it should be carried out not only by Arjuna, but by all living entities. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, as Prabhupada brings out in the purport, Krishna uses the word bhuyaha here in the first part of the verse, meaning again. He is speaking again this most confidential knowledge, practically word for word, as we'll discover in the next verse. And what is this confidential? What does confidential mean? Of course, it means kind of secret. It means something that you share with your dear friend, someone who you trust completely. And indeed, Krishna says, because you're very dear to me, I'm speaking to you again. So then, what are we doing here? I mean, are we also dear to Krishna? Because we can hear it. He's preaching it, he's giving it to us as well. So the idea is that we are all very dear to Krishna, but we don't know it yet, and we haven't rediscovered how dear Krishna is to us. So this secret, most secret, it's guya. There's guya tara and guya tamam, meaning confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. So it's very interesting that right here in Bhagavad Gita, which is after all a preliminary study, it's as Prabhupada said many times, it's the ABCs of spiritual life, which is expanded on enormously in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the postgraduate study Prabhupada gave us in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which gives us so many more intricacies of different advanced mellows in devotional service and things like that. And as well, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu could also be said to be certainly more detailed than the Bhagavad Gita. But even in this Bhagavad Gita, which is for everybody, Krishna is giving the most confidential knowledge. So that means that in the ultimate sense, we are also intimate servants of Krishna. We've simply forgotten it. The whole point, as was brought out in the morning class, or in the morning reading, I happened to give the morning class this time, is that we have the prema bhakti within us, always. When I say us, I mean the spirit soul. As Lord Chaitanya famously said to to Sanatana Goswami, Krishna prema, nitya siddha Krishna prema sadhya kabunoi, shabanadi shuddha chitte kadayayudoi. The very key verse in Bengali. So the eternal perfection of love for Krishna is not something that you need to bring from outside. In this particular instance, the word sadhya means something that you develop that you don't have already. You develop some kind of skill or something. But no, it says the eternal perfection is already there in the heart. Everyone has it. Nitya siddha Krishna, sadhya kabunoi, shravanadi shuddha chitte kodayadoi. By hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna, etc., and the other practices of devotional service, which really depend on those two. The foundation is hearing and chanting. Shravanadi, hearing, etc. Shravanadi shuddha chitte, the heart, the consciousness becomes purified. This is the whole idea, is that it's already there. We just have to clear away all the dreck, all of the things that are blocking us. And isn't that the first words that Lord Chaitanya speaks in his Shikshastika? Chaito Darpana Marjanam. He's glorifying the congregational chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna mantra. And he says, here are these effects. And 7 metaphors, he describes the progressive benefits of this congregational chanting. So the first benefit is this cleansing of the mirror of the mind, of the heart. Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Darpana means a mirror. So it's covered now with the dust of lust, the dust of all kinds of material desires, and also all kinds of material fears and things that we hate, and all grudges from last life. I mean, there's just all kinds of impurities in there. But it all becomes cleansed very quickly by the powerful process of congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna, especially this Hare Krishna mantra. And then he goes on, by that cleansing, you become liberated. The fire of material birth and death, which we've been in for eons, is extinguished. Chaito Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Devavana. What is this Bhava Mahadavagni? So Mahadavagni means a huge forest fire, like it's been burning in Canada now for like a month. You can imagine being in those forest fires, it's impossible to put them out. So that's what's burning. We're burning birth, old age, disease, and death. Threefold miseries. Threefold miseries, it means we all experience them. The miseries that are brought on by your own body and mind, For some weeks, I had this tooth that had gotten infection. It was pain. I couldn't chew on that side, any little cold. When I rinsed my mouth, I had to make sure it wasn't too cold, not too hot. And then if it was just right, then it wouldn't bother me, you know. So it's relatively minor, but, you know, it can be pretty serious, you know. So that's your own body. It's a complicated machine, and like any complicated machine, something goes wrong eventually, and eventually the whole thing goes wrong, and you have to get a new one. So that's birth, old age, disease, and death. But in between, you have these threefold miseries. Then you have, and this is an overlap, we have the Adidaivaka miseries. Who can say what that is? You remember? No, that's Adibhauta. Adidaiva is the, like Indra, he's the Deva. He sends the thunder and the clouds and the hailstorms. So natural disturbances. So this incredible heat that's burning everywhere, but thank God not right here where we're sitting, is it a natural disturbance, or is it due to the Adibhautic? Meaning there are millions and millions of people, us ourselves including, burning fossil fuels and heating up the earth. It doesn't make any difference. It's a suffering, and it's something that is very hard to escape from. And then the Adibhautic, you know, whenever I think Adibhautic, I always think of this one line from this play I think John Paul Sartre wrote, called, what is it called? No Exit. And the line is, hell is other people. Can you imagine being in a situation like that where, you know? But that's, you know, other people, or as Prabhupada put it one time in a lecture, bedbugs. You know, bedbugs. So there are all kinds of other living entities that, you know, I have a problem with, what is it, termites now in my, I have to call the super. So that's a minor thing, but it can be war, you know. So these three are either giving us misery or threatening to give us misery, which causes another misery, which is anxiety. You try to counteract it with insurance, good insurance. You know. You can't buy a house insurance in Florida anymore because of the hurricanes caused by global warming. You know. So anyway, this is material life, and it's a blazing fire. And Lord Jesus says this: by chanting, that can extinguish that fire, meaning that you can be liberated. You can tolerate them much better because you're on a spiritual plane, and ultimately you leave it all together by going back to Godhead. So this is just the first line. And then he says. Such a wonderful metaphor. This congregational chanting, Prabhupada says, it's the spreading the benediction moon, you know. It's like a shining, a soothing moonlight that causes a night-blooming lotus to blossom. And that night-blooming lotus is auspiciousness for everyone, you know, and both you personally and congregation, everyone. Vidyavadu jivanam, it awakens transcendental knowledge. We should know that knowledge is deeply within our heart. Even now, we've forgotten it. We are remembering what we forgot. When they asked Prabhupada once in an interview, what have you come to teach? I think it was in England. I've come to teach what you've forgotten. So then it says, Anandam buddhivardhanam, right here next to the ocean, so you can imagine. It causes the ocean of ecstatic bliss to flood beyond its bounds. And thus, at every step, one can taste the ecstatic joy. Pratibadam purnamitasvadanam. You can taste full happiness at every step of your life. So then he says, Sarvatma snabadam, let all living entities bathe in this wonderful sound vibration of Krishna's holy names, sung together and with purity and love. And, you know. Vijayadeshu, let this Sankirtan conquer the whole world and all the illusion. So that first verse is very pertinent to what we're doing here, what we're reading here. So this confidential knowledge is already there in our heart, and Krishna is now, because Arjuna is dear to him, he's speaking it, and we can listen in because we're also dear. We can take it seriously and put it to work, and also experience the great benefits of Krishna consciousness. Okay, any discussion on this verse? Now, yes, Prabhu. Oh, we didn't hear. Yeah.
Thank you. So, you mentioned that the mind is located in the heart.
Generally, we say that. Yeah.
Yeah, just because, like, you know, I think...
Yes.
Yeah, just because, like, in modern Western psychology, we're taught that, or at least maybe we just assume that, like, we think the mind is located in the head. So I just was wondering if there was, like, any deeper explanation of why or how it's...
Well, it says that the living entity is there, and the super soul is there, definitely in the heart. But it's commonly understood that it's not something. It's not a brain function. That it's a subtle energy. It's, you know, the brain is the organ by which the mind interacts with the nervous system and all of the senses. You see, but the actual mind itself is said to be in the heart, purifying consciousness.
Does that mean also, like, the intelligence and the ego? Would that be also located in the heart?
It's hard to say where these very subtle, you know, energies are. You know, all I know is it's commonly said that the mind is there in the heart, and what the others are.
Great.
We can figure it out. All right, let's go on. Here we are with this very, very important verse. Manmana bhava bhakto. All right, let's try it again. You ready? 65. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te patijane priyosi me. Okay. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Purport. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. These words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayan, Rama, Varaha, etc. But the devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna's. So again, the first paragraph here reminds me of, I remember when Prabhupada was giving a lecture, I think in 26 Second Avenue, or he was giving an interview explaining what he's doing at 26 Second Avenue. And that was the first temple in 26 Second Avenue, New York City, downtown Lower East Side, opened in 1966. And, you know, he had kind of a varied group there, beginning with some young men who were exploring LSD. You know, you've heard of LSD and taking that, and different religions, Eastern religion, this and that. Allen Ginsberg, you know, Beatles, whatever. And but they were receptive, and Prabhupada charmed them. That was one of the things, is that they became very affectionate to Prabhupada because he was giving them they sensed it, the highest knowledge, and he was giving him this secret mantra, Hare Krishna mantra. It wasn't a secret mantra, but certainly the results of it were secret. And they were experiencing the benefits. This is the wonderful gift of Lord Chaitanya, is that it doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, where you were born, everything. If you can chant and you can hear, if you got an ear and you got a voice, and your brain is at least working somewhat okay, you can benefit enormously from this. And there's no loss or diminution. If you come only once to kirtan and hear the holy name, it's enormous benefit. We just had a verse in the Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam, where this Chitraketu, is a long story I'm not going to get into now, but he was given this mantra to chant by Narada Muni. And in 7 days, which is unheard of, he chanted this mantra, intense prayer and glorification of the Lord, and then he saw the Lord. The Lord appeared to him, and then he offered these prayers. And in one of the prayers he says, and I don't have the Sanskrit, it's very difficult Sanskrit, but the meaning is simple, is that just by hearing one holy name uttered of Krishna, one gets liberation. Now, it doesn't have to be chanted purely or whatever, because, we went out on Harinam the other day, and a lot of people heard more than one holy name. But they didn't evince much evidence of being liberated. They went on with their business. But of course, we know it benefited them enormously. But the point I'm making is that the power of this holy name and the ecumenical quality, it's open to anyone at any time. It's not some secret doctrine. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives a summary description of what's called Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga means 8 limbs. And it's fairly well known, now. It's kind of, those who are serious about Hatha Yoga can investigate it. And it's a very strict discipline. It's amazingly strict, The prerequisite is, Krishna says, you go alone to a sacred place, and you sit down, and you have, you very rigidly, so everything is, because you're trying to control this mind, and the mind, as Arjun says, is like a hurricane, it can go here and there. So then you practice pranayama, and you withdraw the senses, and you focus the mind on the heart, with the super soul, and you eat very little, you don't talk to anybody, and you're all alone. Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? Go out and give some, flyers out. We have the bus leaving for the airport to take you to India to go to the Himalayas. Anyone who wants to practice Ashtanga Yoga, get on the bus. Nobody's getting on the bus. But if you go out and you have some flyers, we got a big festival in LA, come and dance and chant and free feast, it's going to happen in 2 weeks. You know about it? Ratha Yatra. And when we first did the Ratha Yatra, they complained in Jagannath Puri. There were some complaints. No, it's only for Jagannath Puri, and it's only that one day a year. And Prabhupada says, Jagannath, he's the Lord of the universe. He's not just the Lord of this one city in Puri, So he broke it out, and now they have Ratha Yatras all over the world, So this one on LA is coming up. It's a big festival, wonderful. So, it just gets caught up in it. People get caught up and they chant, or at least they hear the holy name, and there's also plays, and there's, of course, wonderful prasadam. And so it's all a festival, and it's all built around glorification of Krishna. It was what manmana. Think of me. So we should know for a fact, and this came out, I think, in the purport this morning, is that the holy name of Krishna is also a form of Krishna that you can perceive. You can't see, but you can hear. We can't see the direct form of Krishna with our mind, but we can see. That's what deity worship is, Why can't Krishna appear through his energies, through the stone or the wood or whatever it may be? You see, he can do that, and he does do it. And those who I told the story, I won't tell it again. Sometimes in advanced devotees, he does speak, or he actually eats the prasadam, or sometimes he walks. In rare cases, there's stories, histories. So the point is that Krishna is making himself available. He's reaching out to us. We need an intervention. We are addicted to material sense gratification. And we're suffering like anything from that. So Krishna, being our eternal Father, he comes when dharma has been is messed up. Yadayadahi dharmasa glana bhavati bharata. Whenever and wherever there's discrepancies in the matter of dharma, then I come. Then you have to, what is dharma? So that's answered in various places, most explicitly and famously in the second chapter, first canto. What is that dharma by which the soul can become completely satisfied and happy forever? Because there's various dharmas. Dharmas in one sense can be any kind of discipline or any kind of religion, you engage in. And it's meant to take you from point A to point B. But at point B, you're also not completely happy. In other words, the dharma of how to learn how to play the flute. I was once a flute player, and I did go to the flute teacher and everything, and we had to pay $3 at that time, which was a lot of money back in 1965. Haribol, Andre. Welcome. We're on page 704. Hey, Jesse. Hare Krishna. So, there's dharma and then there's dharma. And that's why at the beginning of the book of Bhagavatam, Krishna says, in this book, we're kicking out all the cheating dharmas, materially motivated dharmas. And the first commentator, Sridhar Swami, says in his comments on that verse, that includes the desire for liberation, because that's a selfish desire. Prahlad calls it mukti kama, svava mukti kama, the ardent desire for myself to be liberated from birth and death and leave all these other people here, the heck with them. No empathy, not a little bit. That's not bhakti, and that's ultimately not purely spiritual. So that's not the ultimate dharma. So what is the ultimate dharma? This beautiful verse, you know it. Savai pungsang paro dharmo yato bhaktir arhokshaje. So that's the first line. That is real dharma, which engenders a pure devotion to adhokshaja. This is a name for God. Every word is important. Means he who is beyond the reach of the material senses. It's the literal word that means transcendental. We can't see him, we can't hear him in our present condition, so where is there any contact? The intermediary, the spiritual master. He's telling us this is what Krishna is saying, and Krishna is saying itself here, and this is what he means. And here's how you can contact him, through the holy name, the sound. He's invested it with his spiritual energies, and if you chant it and hear and chant and hear in a proper frame of mind, you'll experience the presence of God. And he can reveal the full self. Binnat ban namanamino. There's a verse that says, there's no difference between the name and the named. This is inconceivable. This Krishna, that's God, that's sound. We can't understand that now. But if we chant the name, we'll feel the purification taking place. It's a fact. So, Krishna is saying here, just think of me, become my devotee. So they're not mutually exclusive. In other words, becoming his devotee means thinking of Krishna all the time. But you start out thinking of him regularly, in regulation. Yes, at this time of day, you should get up really early where there's nothing else to do, and it's more peaceful out there as it's going to get. And you can concentrate on your chanting, your praying, your reading, your hearing, serving like that. So there's various do's and there's various don'ts. And become his devotee, that's a whole process. To become a devotee seriously means to take instruction from a realized soul. Prabhupada is giving it enormously here. And madhyaji mam namaskuru, and sacrifice to me, or what does it say, worship me, and offer your obeisances to me. Now one thing that, these words, Sanskrit is such a rich language. Many of you haven't heard this, you may have heard it before. There's a book called Krishna's Leela Stava. It's a summary of Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes by Sanatana Goswami. Wonderful book, all little Sanskrit verses, simple to chant. And woven into them are obeisances. Namaha. He chants it in Namaha, Namaha, Namaha. So at the beginning, my old friend and colleague, Gopi Puranadana Prabhu, which is a great Sanskrit scholar and teacher, he helped enormously in producing the remaining books of the 10th canon, 11th canon, 12th canon to complete the Bhagavatam that Prabhupada worked so hard to produce. And he wrote this book, and there's at the beginning, he explains what the word Namaha means from the Padma Purana. Nama, you can almost see it's almost intuitive, not mine, not mine. Now, there's different levels of offering obeisances. You walk onto the Indian airline plane, which I've done several times in this lifetime, and I was lucky to walk off. I'm not going to do that. But there's, what we used to call stewardesses, the ladies. And they say, oh, namaste, namaste, namaste. Namaste means our obeisances to you. Like namaste Saraswati Devi. That could be very formal. But this is informal. It's more or less saying, hello, welcome, nice you're here, So that's kind of preliminary. Then there's bowing down, that the lady's supposed to do, not supposed to do the full-on dandavats generally. But that's the way we often bow down that way, with a certain number of your limbs touching. But then there's the dandavats. You're down like a stick. I mean, ideally you're supposed to fall down like a stick. I don't know how you can do that in a temple, and not end up with a broken nose. But anyway. So, but outside is possible in the grass, say. But you're supposed to, feel that way, that you're full dandavats. And what's the meaning? Namaha, not mine, not mine. In other words, this body is not mine, it's yours. You're offering obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, your spiritual master, to the deities. And that's a fundamental understanding of bhakti. At least intellectually, we should understand that Isha Bhashamidam Sarvam. Krishna says in the Gita a similar thing. But this is the first verse of the mantra of the Isha Upanishad. Everything belongs to God. You're entitled to your quota in order to live, but not more than that. Otherwise, you become a thief. You see? So why does it belong to God? He created it. It's all His energy. Even your intelligence by which you manipulate that energy and produce it, as Prabhupada loved to talk, this big skyscraper building, But that also belongs to Krishna. And you also belong to Krishna. That's the thing. Your independence, your sense of independence is an illusion. It's a big illusion. We can't even, isn't that one thing that came out of the pandemic? Is that just breathing is such a valuable thing to do. We take advantage. But it's not a given, right? So how are we breathing? By the grace of the Lord. By the grace of the Lord, none of us here, at least caught a fatal case of it, right? And we're still breathing. The air was created by Him. Our lungs are created by Him. The brain that gives everything is created by Him. We're existing moment to moment by the grace of the Lord. Now, to learn that Lord is so all-attractive personality, who is inviting us back to the spiritual world to engage in eternal pastimes of love forever, isn't that a big relief? Rather than some vengeful God, stay in line or else. That's not the mood. That's not the rasa that I want to have with God. But he's taken all the trouble, just like Prabhupada took so much trouble to come to America. Krishna, he's still in Goloka, but he's coming down. He's dealing with all these demons, and trying to reinstitute Dharma and all of the different things. He's taking trouble for our sake. So that's what really Krishna consciousness is all about: is reawakening ourselves to this eternal rasa or relationship with God, with Krishna, who's this all-attractive person. I'll give you a little verse. The Vedic literature is full of all kinds of wonderful descriptions of Krishna's form, name, qualities, pastimes. Now this is a verse by Bilvamangal Thakur. You know this one, I think, maybe. And it's not in the Krishna Karnamrita. He wrote a lot of other things. And I've discovered this verse. And anyway, I had access to a lot of translations when I was in Philadelphia, and it was all photocopies. I made photocopies of all these things. So here's the verse. I'm not expecting you to learn it or chant it after me. Druta tapani durma dabilob dukula baham. Vidachita chandaka badanama badanam jagatam. Mamadishamam muteti mutitana nabimba maho. Kimapikishora dhamma maduram maduram maduram. Now the word Madhuram means sweet. Everything's this. So the sweet means not just tasty sweet, but beautiful and all attractive. So he starts out with describing his wonderful dhoti that he's wearing, silken dhoti. Dutatapani durmada vilopi. So there's a kind of gold I learned from this verse that's highly refined, and when it's heated and to molten, it shines even more than regular gold. So that gold, personified gold, is very proud of its glow. It has a beautiful golden glow. But the glow of and beauty of Krishna's silken yellow dhoti is putting to shame that, is stealing the pride of that molten gold. Durmana vilopita kulabham. Vidachita chandrakadam. He's fashioned an ornament made out of peacock plumes, which is so attractive, very, very beautiful. So vidachita chandrakabhadanam abhadanam jagadam. But he himself is the ornament for the whole universe. And then, okay, so this is describing his, it could be on the altar. But he said, vidachita chandrakabhadanam abhadanam jagadam. Mama drisham abhyuteti. He's come before my eyes. This is classic Bilvamangal, page 704. Mama drisham abhyuteti muditanana bimbamaho. Showing me his muditanana bimbamaho, his moon-like face, which is full of joy. He's come to see me, so I can see him. Kimipi kishora dhamma. Now this word kimipi is two words in Sanskrit. Is often used as an idiom to mean, it's ineffable. It's beyond my words to describe. I've just tried to describe it, but it's really kimipi kishora dhamma madodam madodam madodam. That this adolescent form of Krishna, who has just come before my eyes, is smiling at me, is beyond my words to describe. He's sweet, sweet, sweet. Now that's this, it has a certain beat to it and everything. And this is just one verse. The Bhagavatam is filled with descriptions also. So, and all of them are the Sanskrit language, especially describing these transcendental subjects, is non-different from the subject itself. You can experience it fully in the sound vibration, which is available to all of us. So when Krishna says man mana, he's inviting you to dive in to the Krishna book. Prabhupada took so much trouble to translate the Krishna book. And he says in the Krishna book itself, you can go back to God just by absorbing yourself in this book. Our old friend Narantara, he loves to read the Krishna book. He refers to it a lot. So it's all available. But what's the prerequisite? We have to have enough faith that this is worthwhile, and we need to get the association of devotees to encourage us so that we can begin the process. So this verse kind of encompasses it. So I put it into a little poem. Just think of me, Krishna is speaking. Just think of me, become devoted. Worship me and bow down low. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend. I promise you this boon I shall bestow. And that's not only to Arjuna, but it's each one of us. And the next verse also goes with it. So any comments in this verse? This is a seminal verse. If you really can't, devote much time to reading the Bhagavad Gita, we should. And also if you need a recording, I recorded the whole thing, including the purports. So just write to me and I'll give you a link and you can play it in your car or whatever. But these two verses summarize the full message of the Bhagavad Gita. These two essential verses. We're going to read the next one, the second one coming up. All right, here we are. This is the key verse. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayisyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Purport. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and processes of religion. Knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Supersoul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 7th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of the Lord. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Sri Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities. With faith and love, one should surrender unto him. The process of surrender to Krishna is described in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, 11.676. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyatiti vishvaso goptritve vananang tatha atmanikshepakarpanye shadbidha shadanagatihi. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order. But if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances, Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes freed from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory processes by cultivation of knowledge, meditation in the mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reactions. One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision. Some of them are attracted by the supersoul feature, etc. But one who is attracted to the personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics, and devotees are all called transcendentalists, but one who is a pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here are ma shuchaha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender unto Krishna, but such worry is useless. So this is Prabhupada's purport to this key verse. And this process of surrender, this is all very scientifically developed. Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami, edited by Gopabhata Goswami. Anukulyasya sankalpa. So that means to accept the things favorable. You know, whatever is favorable for devotional service, accept that. And pratikulyasya varjanam. Give up what is unfavorable. This is universal for any process you want to undergo. I give the example, I used to took some flute lessons at one point in my life, you know. So you have to how to hold the flute. You know, because I had thought, well, it should be held like this. No, you held it, you know, do it. In other words, if you're not going to surrender to the teacher, what's the point of going, right? So you accept someone, their experience, they know, you know, they're successful. So you do the things that help, and you give up the things that hurt. This is true of any discipline. So that's Anukulyasya Sangha Pratikulyasya Varjanam. Rakshishyatiti Vishvaso. Always be confident that Krishna will protect one. This is a big surrender. Yeah. I like to tell this story. I'll tell it because we don't have much time. In lieu of a poem, or maybe. So this, when Madhusudan Prabhu left his body, this was a year ago now, a little more maybe. Anyway, many devotees came down for the ceremony, the memorial here. And I was participating, both as a friend and also a representative of Satyaraj Prabhu, who many of you may know him. He was a writer in ISKCON. He wrote many articles for BTG, many books. And I knew him in New York. He was a devotee there. And he had been made a devotee by Madhusudan. He met him on the subway. And it was a great story. Satyaraj was reading a book, Bhagavad Gita. It wasn't Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And so Madhusudan came like, "You're being poisoned by that book." You know, the guy sitting on the subway, you know. And then you explained to him why, and he attracted him to the temple. And Prabhupada was coming, and he came, and so he became a devotee. So when, in that memorial, I met a devotee I hadn't seen in years. His name was Suresha. And I knew him from when I worked in the BTG back in the 70s. I mean, and he was a book distributor, and he told me this story. I have just not time enough to recount this story. So anyone who knows LA knows that one of the difficult parts of town are called Watts, right? It's kind of a tough area, a lot of gangs. So he was distributing there in his dhoti and everything all day. And it was a poor part of town. He's in a little shopping area, you know, shopping, not a mall, but, you know. And he was distributing all day, people giving quarters, dimes, you know. So, but at the end of the day, the sun started to go down. And suddenly he looks up and he's surrounded by these guys, you know. We've been watching you. You know, you're going to give us all the money. So no, this is for my spiritual master, Lord Chaitanya, you know. And they said, if you don't, we're going to beat you up. So he refused again. They punched him, you know, hard. So he said, oh. So he closes his eyes and he calls out to Lord Nrsingadev, top of his lungs, you know. And he opens his eyes and they were all gone. They were gone. But he had a little injury, you know. So he went to what would today be a CVS, you know. So he went inside. And when he gets inside, there's a guy behind the counter, and he's cringing. He's ducking behind the counter. He had seen what happened in that parking lot, and there was some kind of vision. I don't know if Lord Nrsinga manifested or some, you know, but he was scared. And so there's another amazing story about him. So this is, you know, if you're really sincere, then Krishna can reciprocate in ways that increase your faith, you know, these faith-building things. So, Rakshishyatiti, being confident that Krishna will protect. He was confident, and he did protect. Goptatvevadanantata, and that Krishna will maintain. This is, you know, when you join, in the old days, if you're going to be part of the Hare Krishnas, you got to join the temple. And usually that meant you give up all your money and your job, and you just have, you know, and you hope everything's going to be all right. And if you're really sincere, you know, it comes out all right. But that's confidence Krishna will maintain also. That's what Prabhupada is talking about here. Atmanikshepa karpanye, to always be humble and meek, and to have no interest separate from Krishna. So these are the 6 elements of surrender, and you can see there it's not easy to accept those, embrace those wholeheartedly. But that's what it takes ultimately, is to feel completely dependent on Krishna and to have no desire other than to become a pure devotee and engage fully in his service for his benefit and for the spiritual master. And that, you know, it's directly opposite to what, you know, the passionate mood of America, you know, I'm going to make my way and make my millions, you know, and the manifest destiny and the whole thing. You know, it's just like, you know, to be completely, trinadapi sunichena, to have the mood of be as insignificant as a blade of grass, as tolerant as a tree, to always honor others and want no honor for oneself. Then you can chant the Hare Krishna mantra constantly in the mood of supplication. Please protect me, please engage me. See, that's the whole thing, is to feel oneself helpless and to call out to Krishna through the holy name 24 hours a day. vocally and in your mind and from your heart like that. And that's what we saw, the great devotees. Prabhupada was just doing that all the time, And he was able to draw around him so many sincere souls who would give their lives and their energy, So it depends on faith, and getting that faith is only one way to hang out with the faithful, to associate with the faithful, and let it rub off on you. And I'm reading these purports. How can you read these purports and think this person is making this up? He made this up and wrote this book so he can make a lot of money. Does that make any sense? Not at all. And you know the history. Prabhupada is experiencing exactly what he's describing in these purports. And that someone who's intelligent said, well, it's real. So let me try to enter into it as much as possible. Okay, so we're late. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your attendance. And we'll continue tomorrow. Today's Tuesday, right? No, it's Wednesday. Monday. Oh, God. All right, so we'll have 2 more days this week. Sorry, I'm getting old. What is that?
We're right behind you.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm transcending time and space. I don't know. Hare Krishna. All right, we better move because we're going to blow that conch. Ay, ay, ay.